Harrison Gottschling, good morning.
Hey, good morning, man.
So we were just talking off air that it's the slippery slope now. You just got all warm, dried out, all the daylight, and you're already thinking about the slow decline into winter.
It's hard not to be honest, especially with building something for me personally. It's the beginning of the end. It marks a time in which, everyone has to have their ducks in a row. It's like, oh crap, we're only a few short months away from hunting season, and then that's only a couple weeks away from the first frost, and then winter.
Yeah, when that clock is ticking, I've never had the clock tick like it ticks when you're trying to build something, trying to get everybody arranged, get out. You're fighting the weather, you're fighting the everything. Everything has to fall into line. This person has to get here to do this, and then this person can do this, but this person can't do this until that person does that. Ooh, yeah, clock.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to think about, because I still don't even have my house dried in yet. I went and picked up 6 more windows yesterday, and I have to install 2 windows that are about almost 250 pounds each. So I'm not looking forward to that, but
So you got
everything's falling into place.
you got the windows on the lower part done, right?
No, I got most of them done up top. I gotta get a bucket truck to lift myself up to install the last 3 windows up top because they're like 25-ish, 27 feet off the ground.
Are you like paying as you go?
Am I what? I'm sorry.
Paying as you go?
Yeah, everything's out of pocket.
Okay, nice. That's a good way to do it. I think I've been paying more attention to how other people build their homes, and I have a couple of friends who are doing the pay as you go. And one guy's just like he's paying for he's doing the pad, and then he'll wait a little bit, and then he'll pour the foundation, then wait a little bit more. So it's going to be a longer process, but yeah, there's pros and cons to each method, and that one would be nice in that you're not going super in debt to a bank for 30 years.
And then losing your mind when you have contractors trying to build it all at once and it's taking longer than you anticipated because everything does. And then, you're freaking out about it. But I'm still trying to not to freak out too hard about it because our ultimate plan is to be out of here before sheep season.
Yeah, nice. My buddy Rob was the foreman on our construction, and he was super nice because he was super meticulous, and you could tell he was stressing out just as much, if not more, than me, which was nice because that means that he cared about the product, and so he was, rather than just coming to me with problems, he would come to me with problem and potential solutions, or let me know, hey, I'm not really sure how we're going to solve this, but we might do this, and so I had absolute faith in him, which was real nice. But
Yeah, that's got to be a pretty interesting dynamic to hire a friend to undertake such a personal thing for you to do, especially with, I'm sure, a lot of money involved in it as well.
yeah,
I think the chance to ruin a friendship might be pretty high on projects like that.
yeah, I think there's a couple high stress situations, I guess, in life, but it all works out basically the same. So whether you're talking about someone building your home or a hunting partner or roommate in college or whatever, I think there's a basic sort of mutual respect is such an important thing to have. And in this case, he had respect for me. I had respect for him. I knew that he is a builder. He is a contractor. So it's not like a buddy who says, "Hey man, you give me money, I could do it." Like that has happened before where you have a friend over to help you fix something, and it becomes pretty clear that they don't really know what they're doing, and they're excited at the opportunity to have a project to learn with no consequences. But they should feel like there's consequences because they're working on their buddy's thing. Motor, engine, flooring, whatever. So, yeah, I definitely had respect for him as a builder, also as someone who would take it seriously and someone who would get it done. And then we had conversations about building stuff, and I think part of it too was Abby and I are not super high maintenance. So we didn't add a whole lot of stress or additional stress to it. But yeah, it was definitely, there was potential to have some friendship hurt going into it. And I think by recognizing that, it really helped things out. Um, I know to I guess to equate that to hunting, I think the same thing matters. You can be really good friends with someone outside of hunting, but when you go on a hunt with them, you have different methods. You have different ways of going about things. There's not this, hey, there's another person here that's hunting with me. Let's consider them. Let's think about what they want to do. Let's make sure that you know you come prepared and you're ready to go and you're physically able and all those sort of things that would destroy a hunt. Just that mutual respect thing is such a important skill to have or thing.
Absolutely, yeah. I've taken back in 2016. I went with a group of 4 friends out moose hunting, and we shot a moose and everything, and it was great fun because it was just great camaraderie and everything. And then me and one of the guys went out the next year, and we were great friends, and when it was just me and him one on one, and things weren't going well, we weren't seeing animals, we weren't really seeing sign, calling wasn't working multiple days in a row. He got bummed out real quick, and he made it very vocal that he wasn't pleased with the lack of progress. And it was just one of those things where it's like, I don't control this, you don't control this. Like, there's no reason to be negative, And then after the fact, it was like, yep, okay, I'm not hunting with him again.
Yeah.
And I had to talk with him about it, and he was pretty hurt. And it was like, oh man, that stinks.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you can't control. It's not necessarily that it's even this person's bad. It's just that it's different. The different styles. The styles don't match. It's not a character flaw if you can't hunt with someone, or if you don't really feel like hunting with them or fishing with them. Same thing. It's just the styles are different, and that's not a knock on anybody.
Yeah, and especially when your hunting partner just wants to start drinking beer at 10 a.m. and keep drinking throughout the rest of the day. It's like, I don't want to do that. Like, I'll have a beer or two at night around the campfire, but like during the day, you're operating machinery, cruising around on 4-wheelers in sketchy situations. Like, yeah, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, yeah, that's rough. My dad taught me. It was the old Vince Lombardi. If you're on time, you're late.
Yep.
So I just feel very uncomfortable if I'm late. And so I hate being late. I hate being late. And other people are just a little more casual about those sort of things. And that can be kind of irritating. But ultimately, at some point, you're going to be late because of something. But yeah, just based on how you're brought up or how you approach the thing and how you define the thing, how you define what a fishing trip is, how you define what a hunt is, has a big role in that. I told you, or actually Ryan and I probably both told you about the guy up on the North Slope on the caribou hunt where it was foggy, and so no one was really doing any glassing, and there was one area where a couple people had been camping. And so we were up there and we were kind of glassing, and the guy just walked up to our truck, and he had his 10mm on his chest and had the clip in, and he's talking about how all morning they've been drinking not Red Bull. What's the gum? Fireball. Yeah. Been drinking Fireball in the morning while it was foggy, and now the fog was starting to lift. I'm thinking, okay, this guy's been drinking Fireball in his tent all morning. And now he's walking around with his 10mm on his chest, just talking to people. Well, what are we doing here? What is this? But he was up from Kansas, and he was excited for the hunt. And probably how he defined the hunt was, it's going to be a great party on the tundra. If they get a bull, then cool. If not, no big deal, I guess. Which that's not a bad attitude to have. That sort of, hey man, I'm just out here to enjoy it. That's great. That's a great attitude to have. But if that means then that you're gonna maybe put people at risk, or you're not really going to care about it, and your other hunting buddies want to go hard and get after it, and you just want to hang out and drink, that conflict is going to be kind of tough.
Yeah. And for me, having a couple kids and limited amount of time off, I'm super focused when it comes to hunting about exactly how long, I'm going to be out for, exactly what our goal is, the ground that we're going to be covering. And we have, I'm there to enjoy the scenery, but I'm also there to take an animal. I'm not there to just hang out. Like, if I come back without an animal, it is like, gosh dang it, I just wasted X amount of days or whatever, and it's X amount of money on gas, and it's like, crap, I got to go out again, and when can I find the time? And No, the way that I operate now has changed quite a bit over the past few years, and I'm glad to have found a hunting partner that is in that same situation. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's down here hunting blacktail. It's nice because you can go out a lot of times. There's not that pressure. You definitely want to get one, but because there's not such a sacrifice, you don't have to go super, super far to at least get a potential opportunity. So you can go, 3 for 35. If you go hunting 35 days and you only get 3 deer, that's totally fine. That's a horrible batting average, but you had a lot of experiences. You end up getting the deer, but going up north for a caribou or a moose, like if I go up for 7 days, it has to happen in those 7 days, and we're gonna have to work hard to make it happen because it's not going to accidentally happen, especially with something like moose. So there is a little bit more pressure. Can't be as casual and can't have that same batting average that I have down here with the different species. And I think some people that come up and they sacrifice all the money or whatever they do, they save to come up, and for some of them, it's just the experience, and you find that they don't really want to work hard, or they find they don't want to work hard, or maybe they didn't want to work hard either way. And hey, that's up to them. It's their money. And then other people, that leads to that desperation of, I have to make it happen right now because I talked a lot about it to a lot of people, and I bragged about how I'm going to go up caribou hunting, and so if I don't come back with one, everyone's going to make fun of me. And so that can lead to it's kind of swinging in the wrong direction where you're too desperate rather than not taking it seriously.
yeah, and that can, you know, change the course of your next hunt too. If you put all this pressure on yourself and you strike out, and then it's like, oh my gosh, now it's really crunch time, and it's like it's all season's almost over, and I really want to bring home some food and everything, and it, especially if you someone in your position where you're down there and you want to go all the way to the top of Alaska, there's a lot of money involved, and so if you try and equate the travel money and everything it takes for you to take home 80 pounds of meat, don't ever try and do the math to see
Yeah.
what it costs per pound. But
Yeah.
it's the fact that it's like you're out there, you're getting an animal that's living its life every day, getting eaten by bugs, having horrible winters, getting chased around by wolves and stuff. But for you, it's about, I know exactly where that meat came from. I'm going to treat this animal with respect versus go to the store. I'm just going to buy this tube of pink meat that may or may not be disgusting.
Yeah. Well, did you see that? I think they're is it the FDA is allowing lab raised chicken or something like that? Lab raised chicken. I think
That's terrible.
meat grown in the laboratory. Yeah. There you go. World's first lab grown chicken strips. Cool. That's great. Meat without animal slaughter. The future of lab grown meat. Good Lord. Yeah, the U.S. approves chicken made from cultivated cells, the nation's first lab-grown meat.
Who knows what the long-term side effects of
Oh,
that kind of stuff will be.
yeah. Processed food is horrible. Science behind it. You listen to some of these people talking about the mold resistant strains of whatever we have. I don't know if it's mold and pests and all that stuff. The science that we have put into making sure that we yield enough crops to feed the people is really gross, and that's why the healthy food. When you look at people that live over in Italy or whatnot, and well, they eat a lot of carbs. Well, those are different carbs. Like that's real food being made out of real plants. Whereas over here, our carbs are so. I don't know. You should probably listen to a different podcast if you want some real insight about about that. But yeah, and I think part of the part of a good hunt is something that you didn't expect, and that hunt up north was great because we expected the archery opportunities, but it was great to be able to get our caribou and then come back into town and spend a couple days in town. And so when we talk about that trip, like you can't talk about that trip without hanging out at your place at the build site, eating is it strawberry or cherry pie that your wife made, and having whipped cream and all that around the campfire. Like that is definitely part of the memory for sure. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to see you guys up here,
Yeah.
seeing as how Ketchikan is so far away.
Yeah, Abby was talking about inviting people down. So I'm not really sure why anybody would want to come down here for blacktail. Steve did, But you have so many great opportunities up there, and there's not really a big ticket item down here that you can't get up there. Going all the way up there for a caribou makes sense. Same thing with moose, you're going to get a ton of meat. But coming all the way down here for a blacktail, not sure, especially when you can get on the road system, drive down, and in the Sound they have blacktail down there, right? I know people go out in their boats. Montague Island, is that a thing down there? I don't know.
Montague and Hitchinbrook Islands down in outside of Valdez. Yeah, those are pretty popular deer destinations.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the populations are like there in density versus the Ketchikan area and the Panhandle, but I think when I come down to come hunt with you for deer, it'll be more of a destination thing than anything.
Yeah.
Like I've been to Valdez a bunch. I've never been down more southeast than Cordova before, so it'll be something just to check out a different area. And
Yeah, you won't have to worry about hotels, stuff like that, and weird. It'll be definitely a good time. So, what are you looking at? We've kind of started talking about hunting and making the most of experiences, and so you got your sheep hunt this year. Are you really excited about it? Really nervous about it? Where are you at?
I'm more excited than I am nervous. I'm not so nervous because I've been in that area. I have some intel from some friends who took a sheep out of there last year. I've talked to some people who have been in the area a bunch of times and showed me different ways to access it. And so I'm more excited than anything else just to actually get a break, because last year I wasn't able to take any animal, and it broke my 8-year streak of taking something, which was a big bummer. We still have a fair bit of meat, mostly just caribou, some moose, and some fish, but it's just one of those things where it's starting to get low, and
Yeah.
I'd like to see it replenished, even if it is half a sheep or something.
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
Are you both? Do you have a Rochambeau? Is it first one that sees it shoot it? Because you're going with Steve, right? It's just you and Steve, Shannon?
Yeah. He's never shot one. He's talked about maybe he might move out of the state in a few years or something, and he really wants to get a goat and a sheep before he leaves.
Yeah.
And so I've been telling him for a few years now that it's like, if we see a sheep and it's legal, dude, you have first crack at it. I've shot one. Doesn't matter to me if I spot it first, I age it, whatever. I declare it's legal. You go ahead.
Yeah, that was pretty fun when Abby and I were up in the interior last week. Was it last week, 2 weeks ago? I don't know. Summer just goes so fast. But looking at sheep and practicing judging them, trying to count rings, looking at the full curl, and the one we saw was just ridiculous. That was so clear, and it was nice to see something that was so clear like that. But that's not going to happen. There's going to be everything. It's going to be a lot closer than that. And there were a couple that maybe depending on how you looked at it. And I thought, this is a tough judge game, man. And then if you have a couple different groups, and all of a sudden they go behind a little bit of texture and they rise back up, and all of a sudden the one that was on the left is now on the right, and which one are you talking about? It's pretty chaotic, but it was fun to lay eyes on some sheep and just kind of go through that process, and then be in some sheep sort of country. Down here, we have pretty steep mountains and we have monolithic faces, so it's just sheer rock, and so you're not going to be hiking on that. The spaces in between, or the ways to get up to the alpine, are pretty steep, but they have vegetation on it, so as long as you don't slip in the vegetation, you're going to be fine. Whereas up there, it was just all shale, the Alaska ranges, so it's pretty formidable. But it's just that shale it's just a different experience. And it was fun to kind of get up in that sheep country, and you look around and think, yeah, this is it. This is it. This was like JV sheep country, because even the hikes we did out of the Denali National Park, we weren't up in the 7,000-8,000 range. But you just you keep going, and then you make your way from 5 to 6 and 6 to 7 and whatnot. So it was cool to have that first initial experience, which I know is not anything close to the real experience, but it was, getting up to some mountains, kind of seeing the terrain, looking around, finding some sheep, and putting some glass on them was a lot of fun. So I feel a little bit more confident, and definitely have the bug a lot more to go after a sheep.
Yeah, they're just exciting animals to lay eyes on, especially in a place like Denali where you see cranker rams where you're like, oh my gosh, if that thing was in a place where I could actually shoot something, like I would be whole body shivering, like, Jesus, it's right there. It's, type of deal. But a lot of the sheep hunts that I've been on the past few years are just sheep that I've seen while on different hunts the past few years. It's like, okay, take your time, pick it apart, like immediately know that ram is a not legal ram, and don't waste any time looking at it. Just keep looking. Yep, those ones are there, but just erase them from your memory. Don't try and make a non-legal sheep or a sheep that's real close legal. Otherwise, you'll just get yourself in trouble.
Yeah. I think the access thing was something that was in the back of my head and kind of intimidating, because you look at some of these mountains and you think, man, what's the access point? Where's the line? But then after being up a couple of those different mountains, some in the park, some not, you can kind of get an idea of, okay, this would be the approach. This is what you do to go to this point. I've now been up there and some of that rocky, craggy stuff, and kind of see what it looks like. There's always going to be variation. There's always going to be variety. There's always going to be stuff that looks good that ends up not being good. Being cliffed out is definitely a thing, but putting your feet on some of that territory gives you a different idea, and you can look at mountains a little bit differently and think, oh, okay, this is where it's at. And I'm assuming this is because some of the rams that we saw were in the park. They were lower on the mountain. You don't necessarily have to get to the top of these things. You can shoot them a little bit lower. They can be found lower, right? Sheep are where they are. They're not necessarily at the top. Is that kind of right?
Yeah, that's correct. I think that there is the way that they kind of operate is that in the early mornings, they'll come down and feed, and they'll go and hang back up in the high country during the hot day. And then in the evening, when it cools back down, they'll come back down to the valley floor. Maybe not down to the valley floor, but down into a lower manageable area. I mean, whenever I shot my sheep, that's what happened is that, we woke up pretty early one morning, went up, busted up a group of sheep, and then we kept hiking up and around for the rest of the day. And then towards the evening, we jumped back down and towards the floor of the valley and started walking back towards our tent. And we just happened to see one that was real low. And it's like, holy crap, he's right there. Like, he's in the grass, he's eating, it's in the, not necessarily tree line because we were still up pretty high, but he was down way low. And so there are some great books by Tony Russ about sheep hunting and sheep stalking and stuff. And that's what he says a lot is like, if you're far enough away from a group of animals, but are still in like approach distance, if you have to close a distance in a short amount of time, like you can time it and pattern sheep over a few days. Like you could like, all right, I'm going to watch these sheep. I think there's a pretty legal one in there, but I'm pretty far away. So I'll watch them today and tonight, see what they do, and then make a game plan for maybe tomorrow evening or something. And that's pretty successful.
Mm-hmm. So when Your sheep hunt here, you're going to get flown in somewhere, or are you walking in?
Walking in.
Nice, nice. Is the getting through the brush and getting through the? I'm sure there's going to be maybe a little bit of timber or creek crossing, brush, or the actual mountain itself. Which one is the worst to get through?
All the above. It's one of the areas that we are, or the area that we're going to go in, has a 4-wheeler trail, and it's a trail that I've never been on before, but it's like a 15 mile one-way hike, and we're going to bring game carts, and I'm going to rig up a climbing harness to my hip and clip the front of the cart onto my climbing harness and just put my backpack on there so I can just pull it behind me, and hopefully that'll work.
And it's like Oregon Trail style.
So be it. Yeah, I mean, instead of pounding your legs fresh out of the gate for 15 miles or so with 60 pounds on your back, and maybe you can pull it behind and make it a little easier, and then when it comes time to pull one sheep, maybe two if we're really, really lucky, instead of having 120, 130 pound packs each, you could put like 40 pounds on your back and then put the rest on the game cart and pull it all out if that works like that. And so
nice.
We're trying something that I haven't done before, and so it'll be quite interesting to see.
Is it? I mean, I don't want to get anywhere even near identifying where you're going, but is it? There's a 4-wheeler trailer there. You're not taking a 4-wheeler down to it, up to it, or wherever you're going, or
yeah.
Is it there's a trail there, but you can't use motorized vehicles during the hunt time?
You can't use them during the hunt time.
Okay. Huh. Yeah, that's the thing down here is you're looking for logging roads, looking for access to the alpine, but things grow in so fast here. So it looks like it's an open place you can just walk on the road, no sweat. That image came from the space photographers a couple of years ago before things grew in, and now it's totally alder choked, and it's hard enough to walk through it, let alone get a 4-wheeler through it. If you do happen to find old ATV trails or trails around there, I know on Onyx there's a whole bunch of like winter trail type stuff that's marked on there that may or may not exist. Does that stuff get grown over pretty quick, or is it pretty?
Oh
is
yeah,
there longevity?
If it's not a popular area that also has other opportunity for people to go and recreate at, those trails pretty much, you can call them a trail, and especially winter trails. It's like those things are people are driving snow machines over like 4 feet of snow. So it's like what might be a trail in the winter, it's just a overgrown brush in the fall.
Yeah. What were you? So you chose the spot based on stuff that you've scouted, stuff that you've heard, read about, or just fascinated with the mountains?
So these particular set of mountains that I'm going to is kind of near and dear to me because it's where I took my first sheep at. Was my first like real sheep hunt 6 years ago, and I just fell in love with the area, and it's a cool, low density area, and it's just the mountains are huge. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's just a great place to go, and especially having a couple friends of mine who went in there last year on some intel I gave them and shot a sheep, and they were like, "Oh yeah, there's some in here.
Nice.
Might as well come back next year."
Yeah.
And so I told them about it, and they were going to go in again this year, but I told them I was going in, so they're like, "All right, we'll go find somewhere else." And so that's kind of a nice friend of mine to give me all that intel and then give me the room to hunt.
Yeah. Yeah, that's having someone to help verify what your plan is a pretty important thing. It doesn't mean that it's gonna like work out, but it's so nice to be able to have some sort of validation that hey, this is a good spot. There's a chance here. Like what you're looking at is correct. You're on the right track. That's a huge thing to have going in. That's what one of the things that when I've been looking at potential sheep spots, people aren't going to talk about sheep spots. So I could be going up this little spot and there's nothing there. Or yeah, you're an amateur if you would think that this would happen. There's always talk of people walking in. So You choose a walk-in spot. Well, you shouldn't have chose that walk-in spot because that walk-in spot is there where everybody walks in, or this is too easy of a walk-in spot. And then you have the whole idea of, sometimes you expect everyone to use this spot so you don't go there, and no one else really goes there, and so it actually would have been a decent spot to walk in and you didn't have to work that hard. It's a crazy exercise of thinking and overthinking and doubting and guessing.
Yeah, and I think if you're not going in to especially sheep areas with that kind of a mindset, I think you're looking at it wrong, because there should be a lot of pressure on you in the mental aspect to be able to go farther and to keep going and push past discouragement and frustration and potential failure to make it out there. And especially with all the sheep numbers that have been declining around the state and everything, it's a lot of people are like, I'll wait till it rebounds in 10 years or whatever. But it's like, if you don't get out there, you never know what you're going to see. And, of course, some rams still live every winter. Yeah. Some are still legal. I mean, they're still out there.
That's a scary thought to think. I'll just wait till the population rebounds, because all of a sudden, man, I'm 42. Yesterday I was 33. It seems like things go fast, especially when you have something good to look forward to. So every spring you have something to look forward to, and then summer, and then it just goes so fast. Individual days seem like they're really long, especially during winter, but collectively everything moves so fast. And so if you push things off, all of a sudden you've pushed things off to the point where you're not necessarily or able to do things anymore, or you've established this habit of not doing things, not taking advantage of opportunities, and you just have this long list of stuff that you wish you would have done, but there was always something to provide an excuse. And yeah, it makes me uncomfortable.
There's a lot of parallels between hunting and parenting, I think, when it comes to the phrase, the days are long, but the years are short.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, I can remember when my kids were just babies just the other day, and it's like, crap, my son's going to be 8, my daughter's going to be 4. It's like, where's the time gone? And gosh, I want to spend time with them, but I also have to build a house, and God, I want to go hunting, and I just want to go backpacking, when it's just, there's not enough hours in a day.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast that, it makes total sense. I just never thought about it in this regard, but by the time it was from the parent perspective, so it was like, appreciate the time with the kids, because when your kids graduate high school or when they turn 18, you will have had like 90 to 93% of your entire time with them will be over, because at that point, once they leave the house, it's not you're around them the entire time. You're with them the entire time. The total minutes spent, most of them are already spent by the time the kid graduates. And I looked back and I thought, yeah, man, after I graduated high school and left, I saw my parents, once or twice a year. I would go back to Klawock during the summer and had a lot of fun up there. But sometimes they were on vacation, and so it didn't really match up. But most of the time I had with my parents was when I was younger. And obviously that makes total sense. But then you come out on the back end and think, man, I have a limited amount of time left with my parents. Dad's passed away, and I think about that, and I try to, take advantage of the opportunities I have to spend time with mom and call her more and appreciate her more while she's here. It's just kind of a crazy thing to think about.
Yeah, it really is. It can kind of get me spun up thinking about that kind of stuff, especially for my kids, because it's like, it's having kids for me was something that I have wanted to do for most of my life. And I knew from a young age that I wanted kids pretty early, so that, because my dad was 41 when I was born. And, by the time that I was of age to go hunting and have my own job and time off and money to do stuff, he's like, I'm kind of out of it. I'm getting a little older. And then now that he's had a bunch of health complications over the past 6-7 years, it's like, crud. Like, I can only go on like small fishing trips with them, and I appreciate those when I can, but it's like, I want to be able to be there if my kids get into hunting, to be like, hey, come on, I'll take you out. Let's go after work, and we'll go do this or whatever. And it's something that's always kind of in the forefront of my mind.
Yeah, if Abby and I have kids, I'll be one of those old dads too. And so that's one of my motivating things that I need to be viable. I can't just be this slow taper. I need to be viable because I want to be able to, play catch and go hunting and do all those sort of things as the kids are growing up. So yeah, it's very motivating to take care of yourself because you're not as pliable as you are in the 20s and 30s. It's important to take care of yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a big generational difference that, my dad was born in 1949 and stuff. And so he'd already raised, like I have siblings that are 11 and 12 years older than I am. And so he already raised a few kids. And, then I came around, then his focus wasn't kids.
Yeah.
And I don't knock him for it, but I know what I wanted to do differently. And I want to at least give my kids the opportunity that if they want to hang out with me, that I'll be able and ready to.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing to think about when you start to analyze or reflect upon your childhood. You look at what your parents did, and it's not that they did things wrong. It's just that you take the information and think, okay, I would do this differently. That doesn't mean that you don't appreciate what you had or that, like I said, that there was anything wrong. Just, okay, maybe I'm going to try this method because everybody just does the best they can within the context in which they live. So, yeah, there's some,
and no one does it right.
And no, yeah,
one
everyone's
can parent right.
Yeah.
You think you're going to be the best, and you're going to give your kids some kind of trauma or whatever, and they're going to be like, "Man, this part of my childhood sucked," and it's like, really? It's like, darn, I thought that was going to be good.
Yeah, yeah, it's impossible because you don't know. You can have a plan, but then I know the only thing I have to compare it to, because obviously I'm not a parent, but as a teacher, you look at what you think will work with kids, and it doesn't, and you have to scrap that, and it's crazy anyway. So talk to me about opportunities. It was, you and I have been talking back and forth about sheep this morning, but the last couple of days we talked about other opportunities, caribou and moose and whatnot. And Alaskans can get a lot of tags, but there's not a lot of things that mesh well, and there's not a lot of really good opportunities. Unless you have a lot of money to fly out somewhere. Abby and I were talking last night about moose potential, and you and I have talked about a spot that might potentially have a moose. But the best way to get a moose is to spend a ton of money to fly out somewhere and do one of those floats. So there is an opportunity for me if I'm willing to pay a ton of money, but I'm just not. And same thing with kind of the caribou. There's the two most famous Alaska caribou hunts, if you can't do a fly out, are ones that are hugely advertised, and as a result, the amount of people kind of make those hunts, the 40 mile and the haul road, not what they were, and not as potentially enjoyable as they could be. So where are you at with the availability of tags and good hunting opportunities here?
Everyone thinks of Alaska as like, especially people who are not from here, they can think like, oh my gosh, Alaska must just be crawling with critters everywhere. I don't have to work that hard. Like the opportunity will be there. It'll present itself if I'm just there. But it's one of those things where it's like, you got to factor in how much time do you have? Okay, what do you want to accomplish? What do you want out of the trip? How much money do you want to spend? And what does my time look like? You only have 40 hunting days for everything, and they all overlap for the most part. And you just have to be able to weigh against like what your past experience is, or do I want to try out a new area, or do I want to go and up this river or wherever and scout beforehand during the summer and maybe bookend it with a fishing trip and also look for moose or something at the same time and maybe think about coming back. But it's just one of those things where it's like, I think for residents, your experience dictates where you're going to go, and trying to find a new area or go off some intel that someone gives you it's a double-edged sword, because it's like, oh man, he said it's good, or he said it can be good, but then I come up here and I don't see squat, and man, how much money did I spend? And it's just tough. It's like, do I stick with the same old and try it, or do I take a chance and potentially fail and but still get out? And it's just all dependent on, for me, what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Like, do I need to come out with meat. And if I do, it's like, okay, how long can I wait? Or, can I risk for meat? Because like I love the 40 Mile country. It's beautiful, beautiful, historically rich area. And it's like, do I try and push it in the fall, or do I just try and see if there's a winter quota and then go that way and have less pressure and everything? And I think you just have to weigh what you want more than anything.
Yeah. Yeah. The money that it would take to go up there and do the 40-mile herd on the opener would definitely be worth it. But then you start to consider all the other factors and what do I want the hunt to be? And I don't want the hunt to be a whole bunch of people with ARs, or you've talked about people who have shot caribou and they walk up on the caribou and the caribou has already been shot multiple times. That's not the experience that I want. That there's nothing about that almost dangerous sense of hunting that appeals to me whatsoever. And the memory that sticks in my head about the Hall Road hunt was that Ryan was making a stalk on a bull, and I was watching it, and two other guys came from a different direction. One guy was stalking it, so that guy got there first. And I thought, man, they must not know that we're here. They can clearly see me. They can't see Ryan down there in the brush that's trying to make the stalk. But we're all looking at this caribou, and then it bumps. The guy doesn't even get a shot. It bumps towards me, and then all of a sudden I might be the person who has the shot, and it stands broadside just on the top of this little lip at 60 yards, but I don't know where Ryan is. Ryan's down over down over the lip, so if I miss or get a pass through, where's Ryan at? And I wouldn't want someone shooting in my direction. So I was about to draw, and I think I can't take this shot, and it spooks a little bit more. Than the guy that was up behind that was spotting for the two other guys that were kind of corking us, that caribou goes, and now all of a sudden that guy has a shot. That's one of my memories. And when I think about hunting caribou on the tundra, I didn't think about, 5 people almost getting a chance at this one bull. Just that sort of like it's the last one up there, and who's going to be able to get it. It's, man, different experience. Glad that we ended up getting bulls, and we ended up getting bulls in a spot where no one else was around, so there wasn't that frantic sort of pressure. But man, if I'm going to spend the money, it's worth it to go there, but only if those conditions are something I'm really going to enjoy. I don't want to be out there with that. I got to take the shot, and who knows, and if this thing's going to get shot before, am I going to get rolled up on? Like, who knows?
Yeah. You can think about it like 5 people to 1 caribou in that fairly low density, that time and area in which you were for that 1 caribou. But if you amplify that into a different magnitude for the 40 mile, you could have there's 200 caribou, but there's also 2,000 people here that see those 200 caribou. And it's like, well, they're going to get shot at, then they're going to go run to the west, and then they're going to get shot, then they're going to run back to the east, and then they're going to get shot, then they're going to go south, and they're going to get shot by another group of people. And it's just like these poor caribou just get pushed around sometimes. And it's like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Not feeling it. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not sure. I think we might. We're going to keep talking about the moose and caribou opportunities. I'm going to get on the phone with a biologist again today. I talked to one yesterday briefly, and it's nice to talk to those guys and get them get an idea of what's the pressure, whether or not it's a viable option, whether or not it's worth the time, what the likelihood of making the most of the hunt is. And then, we might end up just staying down here and just taking some time to really go after a mountain goat, so it's not a rushed weekend program. Because it's kind of a tough one if you go weekend plus 1 day. That's kind of tough for the goat, because you got to pick your peak, get up there, assume that it's there, make it happen, and get back down. So that doesn't leave a whole lot of room for any sort of air or weather or fog or anything like that. So we might just take the days and have a really good mountain goat hunt for Abby. So, but
I wouldn't blame you there. And the way that I've always, whenever I talk to a biologist, you got to think that there's probably 100 other people calling that same office asking for information. And, if you're like, you ask about a hyper specific area, they might have some more insight for you. But if you also think that if maybe 5 other people ask about that specific area as well, that he's given that exact same information to them.
Mm-hmm.
And you could have now more people push in or everything, but it's Fish and Game is a good resource to be able to call and just talk to someone local, and maybe they're the person that even flew the surveys or whatever. But at the same time, I think you should take it with a grain of salt, because I remember calling down to another Fish and Game office and asking about a drainage. And I was like, hey, I want to go check out this area. And they're like, well, why don't you go down this creek? There might be something in there. And it was the worst creek I've ever walked in my entire life. It took me like 2 days to walk like 10 miles, and you're taking your boots off a dozen times during the day. And it's just like, this is the worst.
That's funny. Not really funny. Well, it's funny now. Was at the time, I'm sure.
Yeah. I wonder, I always think back and wonder if that biologist has ever been back in there, because if he is, if he has, he'd be like, yeah, I'm not going to recommend this area for people to go.
Yeah.
I've had some people talk to me about this specific creek that I have in mind, and I'm like, have fun. I was like, just so you know what you're getting into, it's going to be death.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the specificity is important, so I try to be as specific as possible. Hey, I'm thinking about this unit during this time in this drainage, and then specific questions about access, about pressure, about things like that, so that he has more, or she has as much information as possible going into it. So it's not, hey, where can I hunt caribou in Alaska? What's your budget? How many days? What are you looking for? What kind of experience? Like, do you have gear? Have you been here before? Like all this sort of things. Try to kind of front load, so I'm not wasting that biologist's time, because their job is not just to talk to me and hang out and be a consultant for me.
Yeah, not being a consultant is the key word there for that. Is you can't look at them and expect them to have their finger on the pulse of every animal and collared animal in the state. It's like, you ask them, where can I hunt caribou? They're like, look at the 40 mile, look at North Slope, talk to you later.
Yeah.
And then, that's it. But if you're like, I want to go into this drainage, do you have any idea of it? And they're like, no, actually, but my friend does. Here, you can call him, and, then you can get some better information.
Yeah. People are pretty helpful. If you're nice to them, it's just the basic, treat people well, and then all of a sudden, good things can happen, potentially. So, yeah, I'm just scanning around on X, trying to guess where you're going. It's a big state. It's a big state.
It is. I'll show you after the fact.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to make something happen. You need to get some plans. You say you're on an every other year rotation for a big hunt?
That's kind of what it is right now. In a few years, my goal is to transition to another job where it's a week on, week off. And if that happens, then that every other year idea goes out the window. It's like, oh no, this is a fucking every year thing now.
Yeah.
You take 1 week off and then you got 3 weeks off, and it's like, okay, I can spend a week at home and then 10 days in the field and then a few more days at home, and then I go back to work, and it's like the best of both worlds. Instead of trying to take time off and get right out of work, go down there, hunt, come right back, go right back to work, and have no family time or home time.
Yeah, there's plans, and there's also what happens too. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, like you talked about in previous podcast episodes that I've listened to, about plan A, B, C, and D, all the way through Z if you have to. Just to plan, but see what happens.
Yeah, I'm keeping the options open, not getting too excited about one specific thing, and just kind of see, but not drawing the Wyoming mule deer. It was kind of exciting, actually. My first instinct was I was excited, because that meant we were going to do potentially something big here in Alaska, and it was kind of a weird feeling not drawing a mule deer in Wyoming, because I was excited for it, and then I didn't draw it, and I was, yes, all right, let's do something in Alaska. You just move on to plan B, which ends up being such an amazing plan B. Even if we don't end up going north for a caribou or moose, something down here. But well, you probably got work coming up, huh? You got work?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I'll let you get to work. And thanks always for being willing to chat on here. You're the first guest of the rebranded On Step Alaska podcast.
I'm very honored. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Have a good one, and we'll talk to you later.
See ya.